Welcome to Astroventure, the DSLR astrophotography channel. Hey there, Astroventures. Welcome back. If you're new to this astrophotography channel, my name is George, and this is the astrophotography channel for DSLR and mirrorless camera bodies combined with the lenses we already own and a simple star tracker like the SkyGuider Pro or the Star Adventurer. This month, I apologize that I'm getting this target video out to you a bit late, but that would be because I have been both literally and figuratively under the weather. Wasn't feeling so well, and our weather for the last 2 months has just been lots and lots of clouds. And as it would have it, here we are, new moon weekend, and once again, I am still buried under clouds and an incoming snowstorm. So I apologize for the tardiness of this video. What I want to do is focus on specifically the Orion area, the Orion constellation in this area. And the reason being is because we have went past the solstice in December, so the days are starting to get longer, and these southerly targets are starting to head back south. So with that, I don't want anybody missing out on the jewels that are here within Orion. And first off, to go wide, you can shoot this with a 50mm lens, and I know a lot of people have 50mm at an aperture of 1.8, allowing lots of light in. But here you have Bernard's loop that comes up and around, and although it's not showing on Stellarium, it's this whole area, and there is so much nebulosity in here. So if you just center up on Orion, you can shoot Bernard's loop and all of the included nebulas that are in there. You may have to do a bit of layering. The Orion Nebula is so bright at the center. Other areas like Bernard's Loop is a little more faint, so you may have to do a bit of work at shooting at some different exposures and then layering to put it together. Now, first target I want to specifically jump into is the Monkey Head Nebula, and it's just off the sword of Orion. And this one here, it is a smaller target, so you're going to want to use this one or pursue this one at a little more than 400mm or at least 400mm, and the more you've got, the better. And again, hours are really going to help. And it's got a lot of great color in it, but it's a lesser known target that people don't go after. With that one, another one that I want to point out that we should go for is the Rosette. I apologize, let me fix that there. I meant to type NGC 2238, but started typing what I was saying. Here we go. We've got the Rosette Nebula, and again, this is one that you'll be able to shoot at 400mm and completely fill that frame. Although this one does lend itself nicely for cameras that are astro-modded, the fact is that this target has enough emission from it that even with a stock camera, you're going to be able to pick this up. And it's got some great structure inside of the Rosette Nebula that you can really pick up well. And so with this one, I would really love you to go after it. It is a beautiful target, nice and large, great structure. But again, one of these targets is going to start heading back south as Orion leaves us. Moving from there, I want to jump over to M42, which is the Orion Nebula, probably the most famous of our targets here in the winter. I definitely think this one is a jewel. So here we have the Orion Nebula, and we have the Running Man just above it. Now with this one, it works very well if you pursue an exposure where the inner area here is just starting to blow out, or just prior to blowout, and blowout being that point at which it is so bright that it just turns white. There is no color, there's no structure. And if you will go to that point, most cameras will allow you to pull back from that brightness and recover some of what's in there. And if you're kind of working in that area, it's going to give you enough exposure to pull out some of the dust lanes that are out and around the Orion Nebula. The more hours you can get on this target, the better. And with more hours, the further out, you're going to pick up more and more dust lanes. And I've seen some photos with just monstrous amounts of hours on them. And it is amazing how much dirt and dust comes out around the nebula. Now, if you have the Photoshop skills, what I really suggest and where I have gotten the best results is imaging this target with two different sets of exposures. I do one that really blows out this whole center region, but I accumulate a lot of the outer dust lanes. And then I've done some very short exposures to get some of the stars, and going off of memory, I think there's like 3 stars that are right in here that are evident. But by layering the two of them, and I've done the shooting in the same night, so that way there I made sure that that nothing changed other than specifically my exposure. And with that, I did a combination of lowering my ISO and speeding up my shutter, but I was very careful to not mess with anything having to do with aperture or my focus. So combining that in a layered set of images, set of hours for the bright area, a set of images for the darker areas, I was able to get some nice results. And with that, because there is so much light in here, kind of the ratio that I did based on the number of hours you're going to shoot is I did about 1/3 of the time that I was shooting for the bright area, and I did about 2/3 exposing for these out areas. So for example, if I were to do 9 hours, I would shoot 3 hours on the center area and then 6 hours for the outer area. And that way there, I found that blended well together, and because it is so bright in the center area, you're not needing to shoot as long, you're not needing to push your ISO as high, and so you're not trying to compensate for noise as much as you would on the darker areas, which would need the greater number of hours. And I was only pulling the bright parts from the images that I exposed for the center area. So even though I'm kind of I am underexposing for the outer areas, which are going to get noisier, I'm not using them. I'm only going to pull this centerpiece to overlay on what I exposed for the darker dust lanes here. And then this one is kind of just the ride-along buddy that shows up in there too. Never been my sole intent of imaging this one. I think probably because just never had the focal length to really do this justice to put this as my sole target. Maybe in the future, if I get access to something with some longer focal length, maybe I'll go for that. But you absolutely have to get this one. If you're new to astrophotography and you're not in a good lighting area, M42 is probably as friendly as it gets for a emission nebula, and you can pull this target off even from the city, even from some of the worst conditions. Granted, the better the conditions, the better the colors and what you're going to pick up, but you can get this target virtually from anywhere, so you got to get it. And those of us that have been shooting the Orion Nebula for a while, I just find that every time I shoot it, I improve with being able to, I think probably more so with my my editing, but I always seem to pull more and more out. And one of the things I've also noticed with some of my other targets, particularly the Lagoon, which is a summer target, I found that the darker the skies, the greater range of colors that I pick up. So you really got to go after M42, the Orion Nebula. Get this one because it really, for those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere, it doesn't get any better than it does right now because everything is starting to head back south. So it's sitting at its peak with the longest hours in the night sky. And so please, if you can get it, go for it. You got to get this one. Next from there, and like I said, you've also got the Running Man here, so it's kind of that 2-for-1. So depending on what you want to do for focal length. And then the next one that I want to cover here, let's go to IC 434, and that's going to take us up here to the Horsehead and Flame Nebula. Now, these two targets here, the Horsehead is just iconic in looking like a chess piece here. Now, this particular one, it does, it is a fainter red, but can be achieved with a stock camera, but it shows up really well in an astro-modded camera. And the nice thing is with this one, 400 millimeters or greater, whatever you have available. But the nice thing is there is so much contrast between the red and the dark area of the actual Horsehead that's in here that it shows up well. And then next to it, you have the Flame. And so this is a brighter, stronger target. Shows up very easily on a stock camera. This one is a bit harder to get to show up. But between these two, they're just iconic. You got to go for them and capture them. And it took me a while before I really got a nice, sharp, clean one. And what I have found is, and although I do shoot both astro-modded and stock, this Horsehead is really kind of dependent on, obviously you have to have good, guiding, going across. But what I have found is if my atmosphere is really, really calm, then I get some really nice contrasty lines of the Horsehead showing up, in my image. So you have to go for this, and you can always do, don't be afraid to experiment, and you could certainly shoot a wider image and capture all of these. And if you did so, you're definitely going to want to consider shooting two sets of images, one for the brighter area of the Orion Nebula M42, and then these are going to pick up well within the images that you shoot for the darker areas of the Orion Nebula where you're just allowing this to blow out. And you'd be able to pick up this as well as those dark lanes that are there. So, feel free to experiment, but those are the targets that I'm going to cover this month, specifically for the fact that in the month of January, for those of us in the north, these are the absolute must-haves. You've got to get on them because they're going to start heading back to the south, and we're going to lose them here in the northern hemisphere. And so for this month, I'm solely focusing on what's here in the Orion constellation, and I would love to see what other people catch. And I personally, I have never imaged the Monkey Head Nebula NGC 2174, but I personally would definitely love to get a hold of this one and try this out, and this being, for those of us that are a little bit more experienced, but don't pass up the jewel that M42 is. You absolutely have to have that. And then, the program I'm using here, Stellarium, there's lots of great stuff. Over here you can see this other target, which escapes me. I want to say Bubble. If you recognize it and can remember, because I'm not, please throw it in the comments below. But there you have it. Those are my suggestions for the month of January, and it is exclusively in the constellation of Orion, because it doesn't get any better than right now, and everything's going to start leaving us. So we would love to see you over at our Facebook group, AstroVenture DSLR. And if you like what we're doing here at AstroVenture, consider liking, subscribing, and ringing the bell. And I do want to apologize for missing the last update, not getting this out a week earlier. Like I said, literally and figuratively, I've been under the weather. But hopefully the weather breaks, because my illness has. I just need some good weather now. Okay, until next time, I wish you clear skies and uneventful nights.